Part 1. 3 years ago. Chapter 1. "I like this one," she said, pointing to the picture of the green curtains in the magazine before her. Ken leant forwards with his elbow on the table, resting his chin on his palm. "Isn't it a bit too early to start planning things like this?" Ken asked her happily. "It's never too early," Elisa giggled, closing the magazine and pushing it to one side. "I can't wait for us to get a place together. Your parents say it will be soon." "And are your parents still okay with this?" Ken asked her. "I mean, they don't think I'm taking you away from them or anything like that, do they?" "You're a good man," Elisa gleamed at him, "and your family are good people." "Oh, stop," Ken mumbled shyly, picking up his cup of coffee and sipping at it. "You're really too good to me." "You're good to me," Elisa said to him, reaching for his hand across the table and grasping it firmly in her own. "Very soon, we'll have a house of our own and children. Our parents have it all planned out." "And," Ken asked slowly, "is that what you want?" "Yes, of course it is," she gleamed without hesitation, looking ever more beautiful as she smiled. Her long, corn-colored hair fell about her shoulders as her blue eyes shone from the light through the window outside. "My parents said to me, it's what a woman should do, find a good man to marry and have children with. This is my life's dream." "As is mine," Ken smiled, grasping her hand in both his own now. "Have you finished?" he asked her as she dabbed at her lips with her napkin, doing so in very feminine fashion. "Would you like anything else?" "No, thank you," she replied, folding up her magazine and slipping it into her bag before rising to her feet. "Let's go." He offered her his arm like a gentleman should, and together they left the coffee house. It was a gentle day outside. It was midday. The sun was warm and the air still. Everything was peaceful around them. Even the town itself seemed hushed. Everything was calm. Well, almost. Ken suddenly heard a ruckus coming from across the road. He turned to glance back behind him, seeing what it was. From the entrance to a club that Ken was unfamiliar with, out stumbled a small group of male figures, the liveliest of which was a young man with rose-red hair Ken would have described as being like a woman's. Short at the top and long at the back, long enough to tie into a ponytail. Ken paused for a moment, watching this lively and rowdy figure as he clung to several of the men around him. Clearly he was drunk, as were the men around him. At midday, Ken thought. He watched as the man with the long red hair straightened suddenly, pulling himself up against the man closest to him. He then kissed him, hand traveling down the man's body and touching his crotch. Disgusting. Ken visibly flinched at the sight of this. Such sordid behavior is bad enough behind closed doors, but to do it out in the open? "Are you all right, Ken?" Elisa asked, turning back. She then gasped at the sight of the men, hand going over her mouth in shock. "Don't look," Ken said to her in a sharp tone. "Lost souls deserve only hell. We shouldn't have anything to do with them." He pulled her away. They parted ways hours later when the light began to fade. "I had fun today," Elisa said. "I hope we can do it again soon." "I hope so too," Ken smiled warmly. She reached forwards and kissed him. Ken held her in his arms tenderly, his hands around her waist. They broke apart. "I love you, Ken," she whispered to him. "I always will." "I know." "Will we see each other again tomorrow?" "I hope so." She giggled shyly, hand going to her mouth. "Bye then," she said. "See you." She turned and skipped away. Ken watched her until she reached the front door to her home, waving at him one last time before closing the door. Ken waved back before letting his hand drop. He moved away, heading to his own home on the other side of town. He insisted on walking her home every time they parted ways, as every gentleman should. He would treat her right and give her the life she deserved. "I love her," Ken thought. "I want to spend the rest of my life with her." The sun had just dipped below the horizon by the time Ken reached home. He lived on the ground floor in a small apartment block. It was a modest home, but comfortable. He lived here with his family and had everything he needed. He was happy. He rang the doorbell before he entered, just to let his parents know he had come home, as was his habit. They looked up as he entered, both smiling at him. "Welcome home, Ken. Did you have fun out with Elisa?" "Yeah," he said, taking off his shoes. He sat at the table opposite his older brother and younger sister. Their names were Walter and Sue. "What's for food?" he asked. "Lasagna," his mother said, placing it on the table. "You timed it well." "Just lucky, I guess," Ken smirked, picking up his fork eagerly. His father sat at the head of the table silently as his mother dished up a portion for each of them. When she was done, she sat in the chair beside her husband and placed her hands together. The others followed suit. His mother said a quick prayer and amen before allowing her family to eat. When they were finished, Ken helped his mother clear the table. "Ken," she said to him, "I know it's late, but can you go out to the shops and get some bread and milk?" "Sure, but are they still open at this time?" he asked her. "They're open till 10, she told him. "If you hurry." Ken was already heading towards the door. "Don't worry," he said, grinning back at her. "I'll make it." He ran from his home. His pace slowed to a jog as he reached the shop. He made it just in time, 5 minutes before closing. He bought what he needed and walked home slowly. It was dark now, and only by the lights from the street lamps was he able to see as they lit his path. It was silent in the town now, peaceful. Ken loved this place he lived. His life was perfect, his future bright. Everything is planned out, Ken thought happily to himself as he strolled home. He had nearly reached the front door when he came across a figure. The figure stopped. A flicker of recognition crossed his face. "Hey, it's you," the figure said. "I saw you earlier today." Ken frowned. The stranger was perhaps only a little older than him. His red-dyed hair was short and spiked at the top, and on the bottom it was long and tied in a ponytail that grew at the back. Ken recognized him. "You're that guy I saw earlier outside that club." "The name's Mustang," he said, tilting his head at him. Ken stared at him for several seconds before bursting out into hysterical laughter. "Mustang!" he cackled. "That is the stupidest name I've ever heard." "Oh yeah?" Mustang glowered indignantly. "Well, what's your name then?" He composed himself before answering, wiping away a tear. "My name, it's Ken. My parents call me Kenneth." "Ah!" Mustang doubled over, holding his sides. His laughter was so hysterical that he actually fell to the floor and started rolling around. "Hey, it's not funny," Ken glared angrily as Mustang rose to his feet. Mustang swayed on the spot for several seconds before finally straightening. "I'm sorry," he gasped. "I'm sorry, "You're so annoying," Ken grumbled at him, gritting his teeth. Mustang faltered then. He suddenly gave a look that Ken couldn't read, and one he didn't like. Mustang reached for him then, taking him by the shirt. He pulled him closer and kissed him on the lips. Ken's eyes widened in shock. He couldn't believe what Mustang had just done. Ken shoved him away, hand going to his mouth. "What are you doing?" "Kissing you," Mustang said casually, in a tone that suggested it was obvious. "You know what that is, right?" The window of the apartment on the second floor nearby suddenly opened then, and a head popped out. "Mustang, is that you?" a man called down to him. "Hurry up and get in here. I've been waiting." "I'll be there in a moment," Mustang called out to him. He looked back at Ken then. "He's my boyfriend." Ken's heart jolted at the casual way he had said this, as if it were normal. "How can you say such things to me?" Ken spluttered, hands still covering his mouth as if to protect himself, as if he thought that Mustang might do it again. "I thought you might be wondering who he was," Mustang said innocently. "I don't care," Ken spat angrily. "Why do you think I would care?" His voice was muffled as he spoke behind his hand. "Well," Mustang smirked at him as he turned to go. "I'll see you around." "Yeah, right," Ken thought angrily, "as if I'd ever want to see you again." He watched as Mustang ascended the stairs to the next level above him. Only once he had entered the apartment and closed the door after him did Ken move his hand, breathing a deep sigh of relief. That jerk. What was that all about? I can't believe he did that to me. He picked up the grocery bag he had dropped and turned back to his own home, cheeks flushed red with rage. It was silent in the house when first he entered, and the lights were all off. He took off his shoes and quietly put the bread and milk away, finding his mother in the next room watching TV with the lights off. "Oh, honey," she said in a sleepy voice. "You're back. Good. Is everything all right? Did you get what we needed?" "Yes," he answered shortly. "Everything's fine. I'm going to my room, okay?" "Are you okay?" she asked with concern in her voice. "Yeah, I'm fine." Ken forced a smile. "I'm just tired." "All right then. Good night, dear." His mother smiled warily after him. Ken went to his room and closed the door after him, leaning back against the door with a hand over his mouth. "I can't believe he did that." "Who was that kid?" Justin asked as Mustang entered the room. Oh, Mustang thought. He's a kid in my class, I think. I saw him earlier today. Does he live near here? I think so. I guess he does. Mustang's hands came up, holding Justin's face tenderly as he kissed him. I'm glad it's just us again, Justin said seductively as Mustang moved his lips down his body. Yeah, Mustang spoke between kisses. Me too. Mustang turned him over, bending him over the sofa and trailing kisses down his naked back. Do you want the safe word? Mustang asked him quietly. You never tell me what it is, Justin replied with a smirk.